I keep looking at like this trash that's like, particle board that's like $1,000. And I'm like,
Yeah.
don't want to spend that kind of money on junk.
Like it just makes me angry at IKEA. And like IKEA serves a purpose and it's not just them, but manufacturers of that ilk
Right.
that I'm like, this is going to be in a landfill in 6 months.
That's the thing is that it's nice that it's cheap, but it's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the pros and cons of cheapness. Well, what are you going to
Um,
cut out of that?
we'll find something.
I'll be like, IKEA is shit. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That'll be the beginning of our thing. It's funny.
Just shitting on
Hmm.
IKEA. Hello, and welcome to the Practical Palette Podcast.
I'm Tara.
And I'm Mark, and we'll explore the world of fine art and representational painting through the lens of philosophy, art history, and our own art making practices. Today, Tara and I will be talking about life in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I was turning my do not disturb on. So how you been?
Good.
Thanksgiving good?
Yeah, Anna and I did a little staycation, and we just did house projects for a week, and it was really enjoyable.
I saw your post about here. It's funny, like things will pop up and then I'm like, did I like that or not? If I didn't, I do.
How was your week?
It was
Or
good.
weeks?
I know, I missed doing our chats.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
like,
was
oh, that's sad.
this nice regular thing that you know I don't know if you get this way where like if I'm just all I have to do is be in the studio for a while, like I get a little schlubby, unshaven, all that. But like having to be on camera once in a while is like, yeah, like
I know.
act like you've been somewhere.
It's kind of a running joke in my house because I like never put makeup on my face unless I'm like going somewhere like not to the store, but like to a wedding or like
Mhm.
I'll do it for this. And the
Yeah.
joke is like, well, mom put her face on. What's she doing today? Like, I put my face on. Um, yeah, I feel you because I don't
Yeah.
normally. I could probably count on one or two hands the number of times that I put on makeup or dry my hair a year. So
Uh,
I just don't do it. Well, I'm hoping that you will inspire me for studio practice because I've become really bad at it.
so tell me about your studio.
Um, my studio is a hot mess. As you would expect by looking at my
Mhm.
palette. It's really funny. I kind of taught myself how to pastel when I had the twins. I have four
Mhm.
kids, and they definitely influenced my studio practice over the years, all the different iterations of life.
Mhm.
Um, but so when the twins were born, I took a pastel class. And so I would just sit at the dining room table and pastel while they took naps. And then I'd have to put it all away and clean the table really good because you don't want to like pigment in your food and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was a real pain to constantly be picking it up and putting it away. So then I had moved myself down to the basement, and we have the fortune of having two uncles that are electricians, my husband Alex and I. And so I reached out to our Uncle Johnny and I said, Uncle Johnny, I'm in the basement with a single light bulb. I was like, could you please, please, please come put some lights in for me, like some kind of track lighting so that I can see? And he said no. And I was like, what do you mean no? Because he's always like super nice. And he
Yeah.
goes, Tara, if I put track lights down there, you are never getting out of the basement. He said, we're
Mm,
building you a studio. And I was like, wait, what? Um, and so the studio was built over, I think it took a good year to 2 years of, I'd sell a painting and I'd buy the windows, and I'd sell a
hmm.
painting and I could get the trusses, and I'd sell a painting and I could pour the floor or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a pole barn. The actual like physical space is a pole barn. It's 24 by 30. And um, I left one wall intentionally without windows because I knew that I wanted to pin into the wall, because a lot of times when I pastel, I just pin directly into the wall.
Hmm.
Um, and I had neighbors that I didn't really want to see on that side anyway. So that whole wall is just a straight wall across. And um, yeah, it took a really long time. It was definitely a labor of love. And but the problem is I keep filling it with more and more stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. At the when you were just starting, was that kind of daunting starting with a clean slate, or did you have a pretty good idea of kind of what you wanted?
I wish that I had had, well, and this was the other thing. So Uncle John was like, "Oh, it'll be about $5,000 or $6,000. We can do it ourselves. It'll be $5,000 or $6,000." And I was like,
Yeah.
"I can swing. I can sell 5,000 or 6,000," because I was still kind of doing this part time at that point,
Mhm.
you know. And I thought I can get together $5,000 or $6,000, and there are things that I didn't do that I wish I would have done if I had had more funds available. Like, um, these ceilings, I think, are 8.5 feet, but I would have gone like a
Mhm.
full 10 or 12
Oh
because
yeah.
there are things that I would like. There was actually a painting I bought the other day off eBay from a pretty prolific artist, not eBay, Facebook Marketplace. And I
Mhm.
can't even stand it up anywhere in my house because it's so big. So it's sitting at the gallery and I'm trying to flip it online. But um, so things like that, not necessarily that I want to necessarily work 12 foot tall, but
Mhm.
it would be nice if it was a little taller.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think overall I'm really happy with it because my mom is also very artsy,
Mhm.
and she has the same kind of affinity for liking a lot of different things. And so those supplies and materials take up a lot of space. And so I'm really glad that I have this space and that all of this stuff does not somehow exist in my rather small house with 6 people in it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm really grateful for this space, but I keep filling it and I need to stop. It started as a pastel studio, and now it's like pastel and glass and clay and oil and, you know, having printmaking, having a,
Hmm.
a press and having a big drawing rack for printmaking things. And it just it becomes a lot of materials to have in a space, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's interesting. I've had, yeah, and we can probably talk more about this, how it's all evolved over the years. But I found myself being more and more focused on just oil painting, where 10 years ago it was much more playing around with a lot of different stuff, some printmaking. I mean, I was doing like small woodworking stuff in my studio, which was always a problem, getting sawdust everywhere.
Hmm.
Um, and so to have like a dedicated space for each discipline, now it's really just woodworking and painting. And then now I've got a shop for the woodworking and I've got this for painting. Um, but there are other things like I do kind of envy your ADD-ness in that like
I
I would
envy
love
your
just
non-ADD-ness. Sorry, go ahead.
but well no I mean, there are days where I see some pottery for instance. I'm like I should get a clay wheel. And then, well, then I need a kiln and then, all this stuff. And where's it going to go? I can't have it in here, Lord knows. Um, but the idea of a working studio, I mean, everyone's different, but I would love to just say screw it and just throw everything in here and all that. But so
Well,
my
and you
studio is a little different though, because I've got the gallery in front and then studio in the back. So I'm trying to like maintain a clean showroom
Right. I was gonna say
while
you have that need for it to be presentable and organized and have that visual element, which is not something that I have.
Mhm,
So I think
mhm.
it probably helps dictate some of your choices, I would think.
It definitely does. Um, which I honestly don't mind because I do like having a neat and tidy workspace. I subscribe to the a cluttered desk is a cluttered mind mantra.
Hmm.
Or at least for me, like that's kind of how it is. So after a big painting project, I just kind of reset everything, do a deep clean, and it kind of helps cleanse the palette a little bit. Like, okay, now I can think about the next thing. Or if I've got too many projects going on, I find it very hard to focus. Um, like when we were renovating this place, that was really it ended up being about 6 months. Uh, but it was kind of a hard 6 months because there's just so many different things that had to be done that all required a certain type of focus.
Hmm.
Um, that switching back and forth was not that easy. Like I would have to do it like a week at a time. Like one week I'm working on the house, one week I'm back painting, and so on. And so having the dedicated space done and much more under my control
Hmm.
kind of helps the way I like to work.
Yeah, I mean, we came and visited you this summer. All of the whole fan family got to see your beautiful space. And so for those of you who don't know, if you're in, it's Sturgeon Bay, right?
Yep.
If you're in Sturgeon Bay, you need to stop by. It's just, is it when they look it up on Google or Maps or whatever, it's Mark Anderson Studio
Just M.
or
Anderson
Anderson,
Gallery.
Anderson
Yep.
Gallery.
Yep.
But it's such a lovely space, really.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, it looks fabulous. And that's the other thing. I think it is nice that you have that. We were talking kind of, before we hopped on here about how like it's nice that we're doing this because it makes us like get up and get dressed and, put on a
Mhm.
face and,
Yeah.
shave your beard or whatever. And and so you having that space in the front is kind of that same thing. Like it forces you to
Mhm.
kind of keep that, keep your face on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Which is nice. But it can be distracting from doing the work too, you know.
Hmm.
Um, which I will probably talk about a little bit later, but um, yeah, it's
Yeah, like the idea of anyone coming into my studio space right now, like gives me hives. I mean, you're seeing like a nice little window that is clear,
yeah, yeah.
but it's getting bad in here. And one time I did hire an organizer person and they came in and they helped me organize everything. And
Mhm.
it was just really hard because they weren't artists. So I'm like, you have to be really careful with that and,
Mhm.
don't break that or don't cut yourself or don't, watch out when you put
Yeah.
your hand in that drawer, there's razor blades in there or whatever. And so it was very stressful to me to kind of relinquish the studio space and like invite anybody in because it is a very
Mhm.
kind of private space for me somehow. It's
Mhm.
funny, I had a gallerist who, don't worry, we're broken up anyway. I might as well. Who wanted to come up to the studio to see what pieces they wanted to put in their gallery locally. And I was like, okay, yeah, like come on up. And so they came up and they come into the studio and I was like, okay, like, well, what kind of things are you looking for? Do you want landscape? Do you want trees? Do you want figure? Do you
Mhm.
want printmaking? Do you want oil? Do you want pastel? What are you looking for? And she was like, well, you need to leave and I'm gonna look through all the things that you have. I'm gonna open all your flat files and look through all the art that's available and I'll pull out anything that I want.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because like the me now would be like, hell no, you're not going through all my shit.
Yeah.
Like that's just weird and rude. And this is like my personal space. And so
Yeah.
I think ever since I was kind of violated in that way by that person,
Hmm.
I've been much more guarded about who I let enter this space. It's kind of weird. Um,
Hmm.
but it was really violating, which is surprising to me. And it's surprising to me that I would allow it. I mean,
Yeah.
they were out here for a really long time too. And I
Oh
just
yeah.
like went in my house and was like, okay. And then I was kind of mad at myself, like, what the hell, Tara? Like, that's your space, that's your stuff, that's your life, that's your work.
Hmm.
And I felt like I should have defended it more. It was a very weird experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that is strange. I mean, they come in, I mean, in a, like kind of a position of power or authority. And well, I mean, that's one side of it. But then, yeah, the other side is that, yeah, it's like a diary. Like it's your private,
Hmm.
like everything in there is like not everything's a finished piece. Some of it's exploratory, some of it's
Hmm.
not meant for public consumption, probably, you know.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that strikes me as very odd. I don't know that I would, well, I would probably be a pushover. I don't really care. Um, but at the same time, that it's a very, very strange request.
It was very strange. And at the time, you know, I just didn't really know better. And I
Hmm.
was like, that's really weird, but okay. And then
Hmm.
um kind of the longer I sat in the house, like the more uncomfortable I got with it. And I was kind of
Hmm.
like, what are you doing in here? Like, it's not like I'm like
Yeah,
hiding skeletons in here of like,
sure.
there's no dead bodies. It's just that, like you said, there are things that you're thinking about that you did that maybe wasn't a successful painting or, you know, I have stuff shoved in these drawers, like paintings of other people's that I had wanted at one time and then like
Hmm.
like fell out of love with, and they're kind of in drawers or whatever.
Hmm.
And there is that element of like an invasion of privacy. It's weird. Isn't
Yeah,
that
yeah.
weird? I I don't know.
No, it is weird. It's hard to articulate what exactly it is because I understand what you're saying. And yeah, it's just it's a kind of a sacred space that
Absolutely.
is yours. And to be asked to leave that, you know, unattended while someone's just gonna go through it.
It's like rooting through
Um,
your like underwear drawer or something.
yeah, yeah, like
Like, get out of
it's
here.
no real harm necessarily, but it is, yeah, it's violating.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's so I do feel like I used to like have students in here and I kind of stopped that with COVID, and I used to do like an open studio sale in the summer or the fall, and now it's kind of in conjunction with the fact that the studio is so messy sometimes.
Hmm.
It would be a pretty big undertaking for me to really organize everything to a point where I'd want like the public in here again.
Hmm.
Uh, which is shame on me, right? That's terrible.
I don't know.
I
Kind
feel
of
like I
how
just
you
come out
work.
here and dump stuff and then run to the next thing in my life. And so by the time you come back into this space, you're just like, oh no,
Yeah, yeah.
now I have to take care of all this stuff.
So I think this is a really interesting point about studios in general, where like when you were working in your kitchen, you had to clean up every time. But now that you have a dedicated space, you can set down a project at the end of the day and come back and pick it up the next morning without having to really deal with anything. That's more how my wood shop is, where I mean there's projects that'll just sit there for a couple of weeks because I don't always have time to deal with it. So it's there, but I know no one's gonna mess with it because it's the shop and that's just it sits there. And so that actually is much more messy or
Mhm.
seemingly messy. There's an organization to it, but I don't really let anyone in there. Not that anyone wants to see it, but um, you know, I'm not. It's not as public facing, so I'm less concerned with keeping it that space super tidy. I mean, it for safety reasons, it has to be reasonably clean. You know, I don't want dust
Right.
everywhere, but um, you know, that's about as far as I take it a lot of the times.
Yeah, I've been better. And it's funny too, because I think as I add more and more stuff in here, there's been so many iterations of what this space has looked like and been.
Hmm.
And there are certain things that are, I would consider fairly essential to this space functioning well.
Hmm.
Um, but some of the stuff is just really heavy and really hard to move. I have a
Hmm.
it's a giant steel welding table. It's 4 feet by 8 feet. It's like a million gajillion pounds. And if I push really, really hard, I can get it to move like a couple inches at a time, but I'd have to get the boys out here to help me move it. But the flat files take up a big footprint. I have
Hmm.
a glass table that I work with glass on so that I just put a light underneath it so I can see what I'm doing. And then
Hmm.
I do have a light table as well and storage and um I have a mat and cardboard cutter. It's called the Fletcher 3000.
Ooh.
I know, it's fancy. But it's so essential for me to be able to cut paper and cut cardboard and ship things. And so that takes up a big footprint on the wall. So there's all these things that just kind of they take up a lot of space.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Having those big work surfaces is kind of like if you can afford the footprint, like do it, So we were just briefly talking before we got on. I just built a workbench for the studio, which is
mhm.
it's just under 4 by 8. And so what like up until now, when I'm framing a big painting, I've had to do it on the floor because I just didn't have a space to do that. Like I've got a framing bench on the other side of the studio, but it's like 24 inches deep, 25 inches deep.
Mhm.
Um, and it goes right up against the wall, so I can't. It's great for, medium to small size paintings, but I needed that big space and for packaging, like you said, just having that big surface is really nice.
Right.
Um,
It's just that every surface in here right now has stuff on it.
mm, mhm. I've this has happened a number of years, so or a number of times. So I also have a flat file, and in my old studio before we moved here, I had told Anna the one rule about the flat file, nothing, we set nothing on top of it because that was like the big work surface at
That's
that time.
funny.
And that was, 3 feet by 4 feet. And, and I was the main culprit of like putting stuff on there. So it was never her. Like she would throw like my mail on there or something, but that was about it.
Yeah.
But it starts with, you set a, a can of varnish in the corner and you're like, okay, I'll move that later. And then
Hmm.
next it's a utility knife and then maybe a scrap of cardboard that you're going to save for something else and then all of a sudden it's taken over.
No balls. Well, it's funny because
Yeah.
when the organizers came in, they'd be like, "Well, what do you want to do with this? Like, what is this?" And I'd say, "Oh, that's a scrap piece of Lacarte paper or whatever." And they're like,
Hmm.
"Well, what do you want us to do with it?" And I'd be like, "Oh, just set it aside. I'll take care of it." And they're like, "No, we need to put it away right now." Like, it's just so funny because I'm so like, "Oh, just put it over there. I'll get to it," kind of thing. And
Yeah.
um then the piles just start piling up. And all of the things are, I'm not talking like trash. Like, it's not like
Hmm.
I'm living in squalor. It's just like, I have glass organized by color in all these tubs, and I'm looking for a color, and I pull out the tub to get to the other tub, and now all the tubs are out, kind of thing. And
Hmm.
um, I just need to get back into a good practice of finding homes for things and being able to give up things that I'm not using or that I'm not taken
Hmm.
care of.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's that
when
piece.
we uh when we moved here, which now it's been 2 years, um we purged so many things, and that whole process was just so, I don't want to be dramatic, but it was like arduous. So like it was hard work to just get rid of a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
And towards the end, we were just being cutthroat about, I've had this piece of wood sitting around for 5 years. I haven't touched it. It's time for it to go. So I think having that experience at this point in my career has really freed me up to be more ruthless.
Hmm.
moving forward. So even if something's been sitting around for a few months, I'll ask myself, am I going to touch that in the next year? If the answer is no, then it goes. Um, Not that I have, I'm not dealing with as many mediums as you, so it's like a scrap of canvas or a half a tube of paint that, I haven't used in a while.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really helped. Just understanding like I knowing where my focus is these days, the little side projects I can be um, less precious about, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I've been it's like I don't even want to look around. I'm afraid. And I do think that that starts too. So I have this type of personality that when I'm completely overwhelmed by something, I just like have to take space from it. And I'm just like,
mm,
I'm not giving you any of my energy at all, kind of thing.
mm,
And
yeah.
so I do think that when you say having that kind of, clean space is a clean mind kind of mantra, I know that's not exactly what
Mm,
you said, but in that vein,
yeah.
um, I do think that there is some merit to that, certainly. Um, because there are times where I think you kind of start to avoid the space because it's overwhelming, for me
Hmm.
anyway. And
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, do I really want to go out there? And a friend of mine was like, just go every time you go out, set a timer for 30 minutes and
Hmm.
know that that first 30 minutes, you're just straightening everything, you know? And I'm
Hmm.
like, that would be really good practice. And then I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, I have to buy like a cute little old-timey egg timer. And they're like, you could just set it on your phone. And I'm like, no, but it has to be cute. Like to make me want to actually do it. That I
Yeah.
can like turn a knob and hear like a fun little bell, like
Yeah.
instead of just like, your time is up.
I
But
actually like that though. I think you're onto something because it becomes part of the ritual of like getting ready to work, you
hmm
know. And what's the same reason I like having a tidy studio is because I like being in a space that I like being in, you know.
right.
And if I'm comfortable, then I'm not thinking about, oh, this stack of papers needs to be dealt with. It's already done, and I can just think about
And if
the
you hold it
work.
till the end, then you will never do it just because usually for me, I am the type of person that like works up to the last second that I have. I
Mm-hmm.
have to go get the school bus or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. My kids
Yeah,
don't ride the school bus. I pick them up, which is I am the school bus.
yeah.
So there's that element too where I know myself and know that I'm usually like right up against the time that I need to be wherever.
Hmm.
And so doing it at the end is just, I know, not going to work for the way my brain works. So,
Yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
I'm the same. Like by the end of the day, especially if you're working on something that's really taken a lot of mental energy,
hmm
you know, the last thing you want to do. I mean, I have enough energy to clean my brushes, and then I'm checked out, you know.
hmm
I couldn't imagine having to like really clean up the whole studio or, half an hour maybe, but nah. Yeah, start the day there and then ease your way into it. You know, it's a little bit
Yeah.
like in exercise just to get your body moving, to like it's almost tricking yourself into productivity in a way.
I need that.
Yeah. Uh, I
And
do
there's
too,
like
actually.
stretcher bars that like I have painted something on them and I don't like it and I rip the canvas off and then I have these stretcher bars sitting there and they've been sitting there for years. Like, am I ever going to really stretch something and put it back on there? Probably not. They're just sitting there and stuff like that. And it's like, I think you're onto something about being kind of ruthless about it because it's so easy for these things to start to really pile up in here,
Mhm.
I would say.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like a saint or anything because I was just looking in my flat file. I've got a couple bolts of canvas. I've painted on canvas once in the last 7 or 8 years. Like there's no
hmm
reason for me to have this canvas.
Yeah.
Uh, but there it sits.
But
Um,
that's one of those things, as soon as you get rid of it, you're gonna, wish you had it. That's what I find.
yeah,
It's like you're
yeah.
like, oh, I'm never gonna use that. And then the second you get rid of it, it's like, where was that thing? And then,
You know
yeah.
what's so funny? When it comes to like woodworking, I am pretty pretty bad about throwing out scrap because it like, oh, I might use that little piece, at a
Mhm.
project down the road. And and Anna would give me crap for that. But when I was just working on this workbench project, so there's a cavity in the workbench for the flat file, so it's this big hole that the flat file slides into. But there
Mhm.
was a 1 inch gap between the desktop and the flat file.
Mhm.
And so if I just left it, the top would sag or it wouldn't be fully supported.
Right.
But I had just a couple of scraps of plywood um, that I didn't throw out, and they fit in there perfectly. And uh, and Anna was there for that, and I was like, "See, this is why you don't throw this stuff out."
That's
A
funny.
little bit facetiously, because had I finished or had I found another solution, that I would have tossed that. But
Yeah.
it was still, it was the exception that proves the rule, you know.
I know. It's hard to part with some of these things, like even frames and stuff. Like,
Mm, mhm,
I have frames coming out of my ears. I have
mhm.
demos coming out of my ears from
Oh
teaching.
yeah.
And
Mhm,
yeah, I keep trying to kind of run demo sales to like just clean my drawers out because there's just so much stuff. But
mhm.
yeah.
Um, I've been Well, when it comes to demos and stuff, yeah, I guess I do have a stack of paintings that you're like, oh, I'll finish these one day. And I think I should set a timer on that. Like if they sit around for a year without being touched, might be
Then
time to pitch
then
them.
send me some pictures and let me know and I'll buy
Yeah.
them. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard
Um,
too because when you sell demos, you don't want people to think that that it's like worth less than your other work, but it is kind of
yeah.
work like that people have seen you paint, and
Mhm,
there is that element of I don't know that it's somehow less valuable than a
mhm.
painting.
Yeah.
Um, so it is kind of funny. Although some of my demos are some of my favorite things that I've done, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this actually might be a good segue for like what is the purpose of working in the studio? Like when we think of a studio painting versus a field study, um, what is the difference? Because like you said, there is inherent value in a fully fleshed out studio piece, but how is that different from a demo? Even if let's say it was a really successful demo, is it in some way less valuable than a well thought out, developed studio piece?
I feel like when I'm painting for myself, which I have been really bad at doing, if I'm being
Mhm,
perfectly honest with you, my
mhm,
painting lately, or pasteling, whatever, I'm going to use that interchangeably.
mhm,
Aside from the couple times where friends like pull me outside, most of my painting has been in the context of teaching.
mhm,
And what I'm doing there is a little different because you're wearing a different hat where you're almost like talking through to yourself what you're doing, saying, well,
mhm,
I'm going to put this here because this works best for the composition, or I'm going to lay in these darks first because then, I can lay the lights on top and it'll work nicer. And so you're almost like you're doing it for yourself, but you're actually doing it for someone else. Whereas to me, the painting in the studio is more directed at self-development versus like the development of others. Does
mhm.
that make sense? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been really bad about that self-development piece, and I feel like I'm in a bit of a rut painting wise, just
Mhm,
because um I don't know. It's weird.
mhm.
Do you ever get that way? And I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
if I don't want to paint, I don't paint. I'm not going to
Mhm,
paint, like force myself to paint when I don't want to paint because I feel like the products that I produce aren't going to have the energy that I want them to have if I don't have the energy to give it. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I know
So,
exactly what you mean. Yeah. Um, I was going through a similar thing well, basically for the last 2 years, really, kind of since we moved. What happened, I think, was with the renovations on the house, like I was spending so much time doing that, I was falling behind with my galleries and then you get interrupted doing a plein air event so that like I lose a week and a half there. Um, and so I just felt like I was playing catch up for so long. And it was to get saleable work to the galleries. So then you're just thinking about and this is like cynical brain talking, where it's like, what's something I can do relatively quickly just to, keep everyone happy. Um, but that also will be good for the gallery.
mhm,
Something that an inoffensive painting that should sell relatively quickly. And not that that was my entire motivation, but it creeps in certainly.
mhm,
And at some point, I noticed I was just kind of turning into a little bit of a factory. Like we just got to crank out these units, and then I can get back to
what I was
working on the
doing.
house, or
Right.
maybe at the end of these 10 paintings that I once everyone's caught up, then I can finally work on the project that I'm excited about, you know.
Mhm,
And so I didn't realize that was happening. But then at some point, I guess it was this fall, I intentionally didn't schedule any shows. I had a few workshops I was teaching, but that was kind of it. So I was looking forward to this long, luxurious studio time, and uh, basically what happened was I did the workshops, and so like you're talking about being in teaching brain,
mhm.
and it's a little different. It's still fun. I enjoy it, but it's not.
Sure.
When you're doing a demo painting, or at least for me, I'm thinking about what's something that I can talk about all the teaching things in, a 2 or 3 hour demo, um, and convey the ideas of painting while not embarrassing myself with a really bad painting.
I doubt that happens.
It has happened. I've gotten better about choosing subjects that won't cause issues.
Hmm.
Um, But really, that boils down to picking something that's not just a ton of drawing, so you can actually get into painting. But
Hmm.
um, but anyway, so I guess the idea that I kind of wrapped my head around was just trying to have fun in the studio again. I know it sounds so simple and basic, um, but really disregard the galleries in a way, or disregard the business side of it. Like that needs to stay outside of the studio. And then when I come in here, it's just what's the thing that excites me today? And if that's woodworking, go do woodworking. For you, it's probably, is it printmaking? Is it glass? Um,
Hmm.
I think we as artists need to lean into that a certain amount. We still have to make sure the bills are being paid. Um,
That's the thing.
but yeah.
That's definitely a factor for sure.
Mhm.
For me anyway. And what's funny, you were talking about your move being kind of a catalyst for you to kind of almost change your behavior.
Mhm.
And when my oldest started high school, um, she's a junior now, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Um, so it's been, I guess this is the third year.
Mhm.
Um, they finish at 2 o'clock.
Mhm.
So my day, they did sports and stuff. And so it was sometimes I'm done at 2, sometimes I'm done at 3, sometimes, so there is, I feel like ever since that has happened, the scheduling of knowing that I probably will need to be available at around 2 o'clock
Mhm.
really changed my habits in the studio in a negative way. And that I feel like there's never enough time. Like it's really hard if
Mhm.
your day ends at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to
Yeah.
compress all the things that you do into a much smaller time window. And
Mhm.
So I don't think I've ever really not like healed from that, but gotten back into a really good rhythm of being out in the studio and it being a productive thing for me personally.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
feel you with the house, because there are projects like we just redid our bathroom over the summer, and that's the other thing. Then the kids are off for the summer and they're only going to be young for so long, and I want to be present with them. And so I don't even really come to the studio at all in the summer. And then they all go back to school, and you're like, now what do I do with myself? Like it's just this weird balance of figuring that out. And I don't feel like I've done it very well the last couple years. So
Mhm.
we were talking about this topic and I thought, oh, good, maybe Mark will offer some kind of motivation or advice that will get me back out here because I've been really, really bad about it. And like I said, outside of the context of teaching, I just haven't. Oh, and then I did the fireplace tiles.
Mhm.
There's just so many distractions. And, the fireplace tiles, that took me like 80 to 90 hours to do that. And
Mhm.
so that was very time consuming. And that gave me reason to come out here and do it because, there's a time limit for the drying process, right? It's like
Mhm.
you have to have everything kind of drying at the same rate and they have to attach to each other and all of the pieces and stuff. And
Mhm.
so that was motivational, but everything else that can just sit and wait just sits and waits. So,
Yeah. Yeah. There's so something about the restrictions of a plein air event, where you have the time limits, either for a quick paint or for the event itself, you have, 5 days to do so many paintings.
right.
Um, like it's strange how that sort of limitation can be energizing in that context. Like I kind of thrive on that. Like just go
Mhm.
out and, do good paintings, but it's weird how that's a very different animal than working in the studio where I think the nature of studio painting, or at least the way I kind of think about it, is you can work on much more complex ideas and spend more time problem solving and all that. That's the beauty of the studio. But I would find it very difficult if I've got a hard out at 2 o'clock to
Hmm.
really like I can't I find it difficult to work if I have anything going on later in the day, even if it's like dinner plans.
Hmm.
Because I'm like, I just that's in the back of my mind. You have to wrap this up by 5 o'clock, you know.
Right.
I would I'm sure there's ways to like work with that. Um,
Well, it's
but
funny because I
yeah,
feel like that in plein air sometimes it's like, be a genius now. You have 30 minutes. Do it. And you're like,
yeah.
well, what if my genius isn't working today? Like you're right about the time limit piece where it's like,
Mhm.
um, I can see how dinner plans would like not necessarily, and I think you paint a little bit longer than I do. Your sessions are
Yeah.
probably a little longer, but
Mhm.
I can see how the pressure of knowing that that's impending is enough to kind of distract from the now, you know?
Mhm. Well, what are some other distractions we've got going on? So for me, I've got my easel's right here, but then I've got my computer right next to it. So you got emails coming in. Um, I tried to just leave my phone outside of the studio, and some days that works, sometimes not.
Yeah.
Um, how do you deal with all that kind of stuff, or
Um,
does it bother you?
I've gotten to the point where like when my phone makes a noise, I'm just annoyed by it.
Hmm.
Isn't that
Mm.
terrible? No offense to anyone
Oh
who's
yeah.
messaging me or anything, but it starts to be very distracting to me and sometimes I just completely ignore it. Um
Hmm.
I try to ignore it. I think I listen to a lot of books on I'm so old school, books on tape or apps that you can listen to books and things and
Yeah.
um so I do that and then um yeah, like in the COVID era, I feel like I went really hard on like producing content for Instagram
Hmm.
and um my motivation was I'm gonna do a painting a day, basically.
Hmm.
Come out here, get started. And that's it was a blessing and a curse because in social media, I feel like there's this, um, you know, inconsistent reward. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you could do something really cool and make a really cool reel. And, I've had reels where 500,000 people have seen it. And then I've had reels where like 1,000 people have seen it. And you're like, how is it that it's that different? And so then
Right.
it's almost like, at first, having content was this big motivator for me. And then it became like, ugh, I don't want to do that. Like,
Hmm.
what's the point? There's no reward for it. Like,
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
everything you do is for a reward, but there was this kind of like resentment almost in there. It's weird.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think for a while, the social media piece was influencing my studio practice because it was forcing me to come out and like produce and produce and produce. And then at the end of the day, you're like, what am I doing this for? For it to sit in a drawer,
Yeah.
for it to, you know, I don't know. It's a weird profession and life. And I'm completely spoiled and I fully
Hmm.
acknowledge that. And there's a huge freedom piece, but it's like that with great freedom comes great responsibility kind of thing. And
Hmm.
sometimes you just don't know what the thing is that you should be doing. At least
Yeah.
I feel that way.
So it's very interesting you say that. So I don't know when it was, maybe this last year. At some point, the Instagram algorithm changed, and all of a sudden, like my traffic dropped way off.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's weird. Am I getting worse? Or, you start to some self-doubt creeps in. But I think I got over that pretty quickly. But I had the thought, well, okay, let's say I've peaked on Instagram. And not that I try and post uh, regularly enough, or I used to. Um, but let's just say I've hit the number of followers I'm ever going to get. That means I no longer have to think about this. And well, what do you do then? Well, I do whatever I want to do. Like I don't have to
Right.
uh, chase an algorithm. Not that ever really was that hard anyway, but I was, similar to you. I would try and um, get some interesting, do a good reel every now and then, or something
Hmm.
like that. And but once I had that thought of, oh, you should do whatever you want to do, I realized, oh, that's what you should do as an artist anyway.
Right.
Like all this other stuff is just distraction. It's just fluff. Um, and I think it should be in our job description to do the thing that you are most curious about. So that's why I said before, like I envy your ADD-ness because you kind of just follow the thing that you're most interested in. And I think we have an obligation to do that to a certain extent. We have an obligation to pay our bills and, feed our
Love
families
how
and
I make
whatnot.
like a
But
sad face when you say pay your bills. No, it is, and it's hard because, you know,
it's a balance.
it is a balance. And I'm not sure that honestly that, I mean, aside from name or brand recognition, I'm not sure
Hmm.
that Instagram has really sold me. I don't think I've sold a lot through Instagram.
Hmm.
Um, but I was getting like all these follows, like hundreds at a time from like
Hmm.
weird combinations of kind of like the same name repeating and stuff. So I
Hmm.
actually ended up turning my Instagram private because
Hmm.
I was just like, this is creeping me out. Like, what are you trying to do? Like I feel like
Yeah.
I'm not even smart enough or like tech enough to figure out how you're taking advantage of me, but I know that you are and I at least felt a little bit more protected or safeguarded when I did that, that I could
Hmm.
kind of control at least some element of that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it is, so once like the motivation to get that algorithm to behave the way you want it to behave, once that kind of fades away, um, like I don't feel a need to post because I know that like nothing
Hmm.
that I post is going to be seen except by the people that have already followed me on Instagram. So it's not like going viral or anything, so I can post whatever
Yeah.
I feel like posting. Like there is a
Hmm.
freedom to that too, I
Hmm.
think. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird what social media has done to us artists. Because the incentives, like you said, getting a reward, like it's like what is our motivation for any of this? When you get likes or follows or anything like that feels good. Um, but based on how the algorithm works, like you said about the reels, one's going to get 500,000 views, one's going to get 1,000. Like what, in terms of quality, was different between the two? Probably not that much, but
nothing.
one kind of worked for
Right.
the algorithm where the other one didn't. And like that's
Exactly.
the wrong
Reason
approach
to be
to,
producing even.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, which makes it very confusing for us because it's like, what are we supposed to be doing? You know, I mean, I guess it's not that confusing. Try and create good work and do that to the best of your ability, and then let the chips fall where they may. Um, but especially when you see, I won't name any names, but when you see accounts out there that are tremendously successful, but the work is just so mediocre, amateurish, or whatever. But uh, someone's a good showman, and this has probably been the case forever, long
Mhm.
before social media. Um,
But what's crazy is those people who have, let's say, millions of followers,
mhm,
the artists at least. Like
mhm,
if you look at their engagement rates of
mhm,
how many people are actually looking or how many people are actually liking something,
mhm,
it's like a small fraction of I'm talking about less than 1% of
mhm,
people. And
mhm,
so you're like, well, you're not really that engaged with your audience, are you? And I've heard people say like that you should kind of live in and appreciate every era of your social media journey.
mhm,
When you're smaller, you know pretty much everybody who's following you. And as you get bigger, like you get more exposure and that's exciting, but that
mhm,
there's pros and cons to each. So it's like I'm not even thinking that the people who have, you know, 50 or 100 or a million followers, I meant 50,000, sorry. Um,
mhm,
or 100,000 or a million, um, the percentage of actual engagement is minuscule. I mean, you're
mhm,
getting very, very few of the people who are doing that are engaging with you at
mhm.
that point. So
Yeah.
it's like, what do you want? Do you want more engagement with a smaller audience, or do you want
Mhm.
to have a big audience and a big name and no one's looking?
Yeah.
It's like,
And it does kind of beg the question, what do we want to get out of social media? Like, do
hmm.
you want sales? Do you want um like for me, I'll just say it's been good for getting people to sign up for workshops or getting the word out about workshops.
Mhm.
Um, and to that end, it has been useful. But beyond that, like I've sold a couple of paintings, or here and there. Like
Yeah,
it's not a noticeable percentage of my overall sales. Uh,
right.
so yeah, to what end is this a worthwhile use of our time? You know?
Right. And I do think, for a while there, like I said, it was, sorry, the whole reason we went down this rabbit hole was that
Mhm.
was something that was pushing and motivating me to get out to the studio. And then
Oh yeah.
I kind of stopped and paused and was like, why am I doing this again? And
Mhm.
you just kind of reassess and say, I don't understand why I'm doing this exactly.
Mhm.
Um, and so to me, it was something that was a motivating factor and is no longer. So that's also kind of a reason why I've been out here probably a little bit less as well.
Mhm.
What kind of equipment do you have in your studio that you like?
Yeah, so well, for my easel, I've got this wall-mounted easel behind me, and I had adopted that. So I mean, I built this thing, I don't know, 6 years ago, something like that. And before that, I had a floor easel, and at that time, I just had a much smaller studio, so the wall-mounted easel became a huge space-saving thing. And so, if anyone's got a small studio, I would highly recommend it. And Yeah, and I've gotten so used to it. Like I kind of love having, well, one, I mean, this is a 12-foot wall, so I could have something, I'm never going to work that big, but I like to know that I've got the option.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that's been really, really handy. I can, I've got a big, well, it's like 36 by 48 painting right next to me. And so I can have that there and then like a small study just set up on the easel right next to it if I'm
Hmm.
working off of a study. Um, which actually in this case, I've got it behind me over there. That's the study.
Well, random
Um,
question. I see your lights above
mhm,
that too.
mhm. Oh yeah.
Do you, how do you like to work with lights? What's your
Um,
light deal?
yeah, so I've got a whole track light system in here. So it's easy to swap out lights, move them around if I need to. I think these are 5000K lights. So it's kind of a neutral, maybe leaning cool light, which in this room is necessary because the I've got gray walls, which it's actually a slightly warm gray. So the light can feel slightly warm in here. So I like to get it as neutral as possible, which is just helpful for me to like see the color. And then it really helps when photographing the work, so the colors stay fairly accurate. Um, but outside of that, I don't really think about lighting that much. As long as I can see what I'm doing and I can see the colors that I'm mixing,
Hmm.
that's kind of my biggest concern. And so I know there's the high CRI, all the technical specs on the light bulbs. So these are a relatively high CRI. Um, but then anyway, I've also got all these on a dimmer switch. So if the light's too intense, I can take it down a little bit. If it's not enough, I can bump it up. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it for the lighting. So this is all it's overhead. Um, I do plan on adding an extra track parallel to the easel, so I can get some like lighting a bigger piece can be a little tricky because of there's less versatility just on one track. So if I have a second track, I can get things a little closer, a little further away. Um, which honestly, that's more about photographing the work than uh, just painting. But again, that stuff's important too. So
What are you using
um,
to photograph your work?
I've got a Nikon DSLR camera. It's kind of an entry level camera. I'll probably end up replacing that at some point, but this one's been doing fine. So I set that up on a tripod and um, maybe 5 or maybe 6 or 7 feet back and try and get it so that there's not a ton of glare. Some glare seems like it's always inevitable, but that's where positioning the lights can be really crucial.
Hmm.
Um, I know there's some people like to light it from the sides at a very steep angle, so that way that should reduce a lot of the glare. But I don't know. I guess I'm too lazy. uh, I'm not doing like Giclée prints or anything like that with any of my photos. So as
Right.
long as it looks good online, that's kind of all I care about.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah. Well, I said I have that Fletcher 3000 that's like a matte glass. Oh, I didn't really mention this. It actually cuts everything. It can cut cardboard, it can cut the paper that I use, it can cut acrylic, so
Mhm.
plexi, it can cut the aluminum composite panels, it can cut glass, it can cut everything. Um, and there's like different wheels, kind of like you spin it and there's different blades for everything.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, it's very useful. If you were doing anything that required any kind of glass or like anything like that, you'd
Mhm.
probably want one. Um, and then there was a frame shop that was going out of business, and they
Mhm.
had like mat board storage holders that have like vertical storage. And
Yeah.
they all go
Mhm.
in at an angle, which is kind of cool so that
Mhm.
it can be longer. So like if it went
Mhm.
straight in, you wouldn't get as much length to it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I got some of those for free actually. Um, So I have a lot of framed things and foam core and cardboard and glass and supplies like that that are standing in those.
Mhm.
Um, I also have a dry mount press. I have too many things. I have a dry mount press, which is good for mounting. You can mount canvas to gator board for panels,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
nice. I have a big whiteboard that I use to teach online.
Mhm.
And I have two light tables. I have a glass grinder. I have two flat files. I got rid of some I gave to a friend. I have a huge drying rack. I have um a printmaking press. I just have too much stuff in here. Oh, I have a wheel over there. Forgot about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and we were talking earlier and we were talking about, clay and how it's not just like getting clay, it's having a kiln and having the
Mhm.
glazes and having like a reclaim bucket to reclaim the clay that doesn't work the way you think it's going to work and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And so it just takes up a lot of space and it's a lot of equipment to have. And so my mom has a kiln and I have
Mhm.
friends locally that have kilns that I've just kind of borrowed.
Mhm.
Um, but, to have a kiln in here, I have to have the proper amperage available. And, they're all
Mhm.
different. And
Yeah.
how big of a kiln do you want? How big of a thing are you making? Kind of thing. So it's this big process. But since you are so technically able,
Mhm.
you could always build an outdoor kiln, which is really cool. I went and saw
Oh,
one of those in North Carolina.
yeah.
And this guy, his name's Mark Hewitt Pottery. You should look him up because he's awesome.
Mhm.
He has this, it's like a beehive. It's like the coolest kiln ever. And it's
Mhm.
wood fed, so you just feed it with wood and you have to kind of keep it at temp and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of this once a year unloading kind of thing and like a big party that everybody comes and loads wood in and kind of keeps it
Yeah.
going all night long kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it is hard to have the equipment to do everything. And
Mhm.
that's something that I struggle with because I want to do everything. And so, um, some of this equipment that I have in here, I probably don't need to have in here. I should probably
Mhm.
reassess that a little bit.
I don't know. I mean, that gets back to what we were saying earlier. As soon as you get rid of it, then you'll be like, "Oh, I
You're gonna need
I
it.
missed
Yeah.
that printing press."
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting that basically all of the disciplines that we're involved in, there's a pretty low bar for entry. So right next door to me is a glass studio, and
Hmm.
they've got the whole hot shop. They do their glass
Like
blowing and
glass
all that.
blowing. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and just the overhead cost to get something like that off the ground, of like you're not a beginner coming in and just starting that. So I think,
Glass
and
is
that's
so
probably,
hard.
yeah, and that's where a lot of glass studios are more cooperative. One, glass blowing, it's hard to do by yourself. So you
Hmm.
kind of need an extra set of hands. So it makes sense to have multiple artists going in on that. But for everything we do, for the most part, you can kind of piecemeal it together. Basically, the way you built your studio, where so like my wood shop, I started out with very entry level tools. Like you can do a lot of woodworking with $200 worth of tools.
Hmm.
Um, and painting is the same way. You get a cheap easel and some basic brushes and all that, and like you can throw everything together for very relatively little, and
Sure.
then just build it up over time. Um, and as you want to play around with different things, like printmaking, for instance, yeah, it would be awesome to have a printing press. But the last time I did any wood cuts, I was just doing the burnishing with a wooden spoon, and that
Hmm.
I'm not cranking out large numbers, but it worked well enough.
Right.
Uh, so for people who are like putting together a studio, like keep that in mind. You don't need the, and in fact, having a big, massive studio with all the bells and whistles might be a hindrance starting out because you just
Hmm.
have all this stuff and you're spending a ton of money. Um,
It can get really expensive, yeah.
mhm,
And then you have to kind of recoup the cost of it somehow. And,
mhm,
that can start to get kind of impossible when you've spent all this money on these very expensive materials. And a
mhm,
lot of the things that I have in here, like at the moment, as far as equipment in here, I think the most expensive equipment I have isn't more than a couple $100. I mean,
mhm,
I buy everything used. Like
mhm,
most of the things in here, I'd say 99% of the things in here are things that I've found on Marketplace or been gifted or, you know, randomly lucky, fell into
mhm,
kind of finding something or so none of it is, I mean, it's all valuable in its function to me, but I
mhm.
can't really, like, I can't, if you bought new flat files, they would be a crap ton of money. I
Yeah.
mean, they're very
Yeah.
expensive, but if you go on Marketplace, on Facebook Marketplace, and you look up um, flat files, I mean, people are selling them for like $100 a set. It's like
Yeah.
way more manageable than being able to like Mayline order, a $5,000 set of flat files. That's crazy. That's crazy
Yeah.
talk.
My flat file I got from the University of Minnesota. I think it was their geology department. They must have had
Yeah.
like big maps in there or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a lot of it is repurposing things that, as I look around here, there aren't many things that I have bought um, that were certainly brand new, but
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. You don't really need all the bells and whistles to get a studio space together. Really, it's just a dedicated space to be focused on working. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, one thing that I've been wanting to upgrade for a very long time is my Tabaret with my palette. The Tabaret, I put in quotes, is it's just an end table that I slapped a piece of plywood on top,
Mhm.
and that's my palette. That's it. That's all it is. I did put some casters on it because I wanted to wheel it around, but um, it's it doesn't need to be anything more than that, you know.
Right.
And I think I got the table for free. The plywood is actually an old cabinet door that I had lying around.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's good to
and
recycle these things.
yeah, yeah. It's if you want to get into like, I mean, I'm working towards a more polished aesthetic in here because, like we were talking about before, I like to have things a little bit neat and orderly. But um, it's it's worked, it's functioned extremely well. Like
Hmm.
there's not a lot of incentive to replace it other than my own vanity.
Well, it's funny
Um,
because I was doing printmaking for a while and I had sold a press that I bought and it was it was advertised as having a specific bed size that I needed because I use paper
mhm,
that's 22 inches wide and the actual entire press was 22 inches wide, not the bed size. So
mhm,
I realized it was smaller than what I needed. And so I sold it, like resold it. And the people who came and picked it up were just these really, really nice people who just randomly wanted a press and they didn't live very far away. And so they were doing printmaking too. And they, I had seen, we don't have a truck. Alex is
mhm,
always saying, I want a truck, I want a truck. Because I'm always doing some kind of shenanigans that requires a truck.
mhm,
But I had seen these huge industrial drying racks like for printmaking. And they were
mhm,
like 50 or $75 or something. And so I messaged them and I said, "Hey, I don't have a truck, but I know you're doing printmaking and I saw these things and um I said I just wanted you to see them to be able to grab one if you want one." Like,
mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
So I get a call and they're like, "Well, we're here." And I was like, "You're here with what?" And they're like, "Well, we brought you one too." And I was like, "That was so nice." So I think it was like 50 or $100 or something for this
Yeah.
very cool, like spring-loaded drying rack. But that once again, that takes up quite a big footprint. I mean, you can fit
Mhm.
two. sheets of 22-inch paper, so it's about 45 inches wide,
Hmm.
and you know, takes up a lot of space, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But
How often do you rearrange things in your studio?
I'm like itching to do it now because I
Mhm.
feel like I just I am like a creature of change. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? You
Yeah.
don't know what I mean. Because
I
you're
feel like
probably
it's
not.
every 6 months for me. I'm like I gotta move something around.
I know. And I feel like right now I'm kind of like sitting on a glut of frames that don't match each other, like from just years of showing stuff and
Hmm.
miscellaneous nonsense that's around here. And um I added heat to the studio because I didn't have heat in here initially. I had a pellet stove, but it didn't really work out too well because I wasn't out here consistently enough to feed it, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and so I added a mini split system out here, which is nice. I really only turn it on when I'm out here, and then I kind of turn it back off. It's
Hmm.
well insulated, but when I did that, I stupidly um, put it on the same wall as the Fletcher 3000, and so it juts out just slightly further than the wall-mounted cutter.
Hmm.
So everything has to kind of go on one side of the cutter instead of the other. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I made a mistake and didn't really think about the depth of how far that was going to come off the wall, and so I'm itching to move it to a wall that I can, have more free space on both sides because it's more functional that way.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I probably need to do a purge. But yes, I am itchy to kind of reassemble this into something. And now we're like, oh, we have a podcast. Like we have to have like a desk to like sit at and record and
Hmm.
kind of keep that orderly and organized enough that no one can see the mess around me. But um
It's all
and
studio
so,
magic.
yeah. And it's funny, I'm also a sucker for like saving things. Like,
Hmm.
Alex's grandfather passed away and he has this beautiful, I'm sitting at it right now. I think it's beautiful. It's like a mid-century walnut desk with these cool kind of waterfall handles and it's just like a laminate top, but like the legs are half wood, half steel. It's like very industrial and cool and
Hmm.
they're like, we're just gonna throw it away. I'm like, no, you can't throw it away. So then I like absorb that into the studio and I'm like, I didn't need that in here, but I couldn't bear for it to get thrown away. So that kind of thing where I keep like absorbing more things in here that I don't really even need in here. So
Hmm. Yeah.
it's bad. Yeah, I need to do a rearrange myself. But yeah, there's been a lot of iterations in here, and I'm not sure which has been the most successful
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah. For me, it usually comes down to, I mean, you talked about frames. There will be times in the year, and it comes and goes, but where I'll have too many frames. Like you put in a big order because you need a bunch of frames. For me, it's usually in the spring. I'll be getting ready for summer shows, and I'll just a bunch of frames will have to get stacked up in the corner, and then I'll be
Mhm.
like, this is always a problem. I need to solve this problem, which means moving a bunch of stuff around, and uh, and that's what just kind of gets the ball rolling. So the latest iteration right now is well, it was the workbench, which has a ton of drawers and stuff, so I can fit all kinds of stuff in there. I mean, the thing probably weighs a metric ton when it will be full. um, but and then putting more cabinets in the studio here.
Mhm.
Um, and I need a cubby for mostly for panels or for paintings that just need a home when they're not on the wall.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, it almost always comes down to organization for me. Like it's not so much about like workflow. It's just like getting stuff off the floor and into a home, you know.
Yeah, I need to. That is something. It's funny. My sister, we're kind of opposites.
Mhm.
And so I keep saying, when are you going to come help me clean the studio? And because she's very organized and I'm very not. And so she keeps promising that she'll come help my frazzled brain, get myself in order a little bit. But
Mhm.
it does help, I think, to have someone help you kind of order your thoughts in a way. Like, what is this?
Mhm.
Do you use it? Is it trash? Can you throw it away? Can you give it away?
Mhm.
Like, um, so yeah, I'm hoping she comes soon. Maybe Friday. She might come Friday,
Yeah.
but
It's funny hearing you say that because I don't think I would want anyone. I'm very particular. Uh, like I mean, I feel bad. I'm a little too anal about things sometimes. Like with my wife, where she'll need to borrow a pair of scissors or something, and I'll be like, make sure it ends up where you found it when you're
that's
done,
hilarious.
because I don't want when you need the tool in the middle of a workday, I don't want to spend 20 minutes trying to find it. I know where everything is. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm maybe worse than others, uh, but it's I don't know, it's a thing. And I've actually gotten to the point where I've got duplicates of all kinds of stuff. So it's 20 feet for me is my framing bench, and I've got scissors there, but I've also got scissors here.
Hmm.
Um, just having extras of stuff to save that 20-foot walk in the middle of the day.
That's funny.
Um, it's not that exactly, but it's kind of, like I'm working in one area. I don't want to interrupt what I'm doing to then go find everything else that I
Right.
need. So just having extras, I find to be helpful.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you can see behind me, I love plants.
Mhm.
Feel like this is like a AA for plants. Um, I'm Tara. I love plants. I have too many. And so in the summer, I'm always like, woohoo, they can get out of here. And I like throw them outside. And then every winter, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because they all have to come back in. And so
Mhm.
it's like assimilating them back into my space gets harder and harder. I'm like, I don't know that I can keep all these plants. I love them, but I might have to start finding new homes for them because I'm
Yeah.
like, it's crazy. They're taking up quite a footprint in my studio. So we'll see.
It's about quality of life, if they bring you joy.
They do. The other thing I will say that I don't have in the studio that I wish I had is like running water and
Mm.
like a sink or like a
Mhm.
bathroom or something.
Mhm.
Not that I even not necessarily a bathroom, but just a sink would be nice.
Mhm.
So with the plants, a lot of times I have a dehumidifier running and I just water them with the water out of the dehumidifier because I
Well,
don't
there
have
you go.
access to a, faucet in here.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I would say if you're looking for a studio space, then a sink is always nice. I don't have
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
The way our well and septic works
Mhm.
here where I am in Maryland, it would have just been impossible for me to do it legally, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
I could
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
ground watered somewhere, but we didn't go that route. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
More headache, more money.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm very, very, very grateful for this space, and I would highly encourage anybody who wants to be more professional about their practice to really carve out a space that can
Mhm.
help inform whatever studio practice that you're looking to maintain or to do. Um, but yeah, I do think it's becomes very easy to collect a lot of stuff that then gets in your way. So
Yeah. If you didn't have the option to build this studio, would you have found a space to rent, or would you have stuck it out in the basement?
I probably would have just stuck it out in the basement just because I don't know that I would have felt comfortable having a financial demand on me to sell paintings, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, this year has been different because I've really ramped up the teaching end, which I really enjoy teaching and um, you know, have gotten really good feedback from students and have kind of a core group of people who are very consistent students. Um, but kind of without that piece, I wouldn't really have a consistent income. And so to me, it would be kind of too risky for me to commit to a financial obligation of having a studio outside the house. What
Mhm.
about you? Have you had a studio outside the house?
No, and I don't know if I would like it. I mean, okay, so there's something nice about like when I had a day job years ago. There was something nice about driving to work and then the drive home from work to like
Mhm.
decompress. And then when having that separation, you get home and you're like, okay, now it is just home time. It's not work time. Where here, having the studio where I live, it's very easy to just constantly be fixated on work.
Hmm.
Uh, a lot of the time, that's a good thing because it's stuff I'm excited about, hopefully. Um, but the other side of it is, there's a lot of buildings that are dedicated to studio spaces. Um, I don't know that I could handle that. Like, uh,
I would think it's
it,
kind of distracting.
yeah, yeah. Like we were kind of talking about this with Charlie Hunter the other day,
Hmm.
because he's got some neighbors in his building uh, that, yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I've got neighbors here, but they're like in their own building, and we're all working on our own stuff. So I guess maybe it wouldn't be that bad. But I would just think, I don't know. I like having my own space where I can really control who comes in and who
Hmm.
doesn't, or at what times. The exception being because I've got the gallery during the summer when I kind of have it regular business hours. Um, I don't get a lot of work done on those days,
Yeah.
which has become kind of a problem. So actually, next summer I'm looking to hire someone to watch the gallery so I can just shut the
That'd be
door and,
cool.
and work. Um,
I live in a really small town. I think the last time I looked, there's like 6,000 people in the entire town.
mhm,
Um, I want to say there's two stoplights, maybe three.
mhm,
It's pretty small.
yeah.
And so there isn't a strong art game here at all.
Mhm,
They do a studio tour, but even that in the whole county is pretty well dispersed as far as they're all pretty far apart from each other. And there is no real hub of arts anywhere near me outside of, I'm not going all the way down to Baltimore. It's too far and traffic's too terrible. So um, there isn't really, a very vibrant art life where I am either. So it's not
yeah.
like there's this like awesome studio space and like, oh, I could be a part of this cool kid club.
Mhm.
That just doesn't exist where I am. And so yet another reason why I'm really grateful for this space.
I mean, my first studio, like when I was in college, uh, first it was I set up a drafting table in my bedroom, and then as a student, I did get a dedicated space, which was, oh man, I loved that. Just having, you know, it was in the painting lab, and that was a much more collaborative space. Like everyone had their little corner in the lab, and
Mhm.
uh, but I would just go there at like 9 o'clock at night and work, and nobody was around, and it was awesome.
That's funny.
But
I'm so not a night owl at all. Like by nine
mhm,
o'clock, I'm like falling asleep. And then,
mhm,
I am much more, I could like roll out of bed, put on a hat, and be like, where are we going? What are we doing? But I
mhm,
cannot stay up late or work late. So that's why also that whole like my day ends at 2 o'clock thing is a real challenge for me because that means my day ends at 2 o'clock.
mhm.
And the kids are only going to be, young for so long or even like want me around for so long. So I'm kind of trying to be present with that as well. So there's that
Mhm.
piece. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't paint at 9 o'clock. I'd be totally useless. Be like falling asleep.
The only time I do that these days is if I'm really close to finishing a painting that's been sitting around for too long. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'll just push on through, put on a pot of coffee, and be like, this is going to be a late night, and I'm here for it. And then I'll take tomorrow off. That's
I love
like the
that.
only way I did. Which it can be fun because I used to love doing that, like working late. I mean, especially like college years, but even after that, more in my 20s, um, where yeah, it felt like a rite of passage to pull an all-nighter, finishing up work. And now, one, it's certainly not healthy to do that, but also if you're just organized with your time, or manage your time well, it's not necessary, you know, or at
Yeah.
least for what we're doing. I don't know if you're like doing more commissions with deadlines, if you're an illustrator or designer or something like that, that's a little different. But even then, you know, try not to.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, when this was the topic that was coming up, I thought, I really hope Mark imparts some wisdom to me on how, like, he could rub off some of his more meticulous, thoughtful, um, organized nature could rub off
Mhm,
on me. And um, I think the takeaway for me is that I think it's important to dedicate spaces to specific things, especially when you have a lot of mediums in the studio.
mhm,
So, and kind of try and keep them in their home as best as you can, because
mhm,
it's very easy for it to just all fly everywhere kind of thing. And so,
mhm.
um, I think when we get off here, I'm gonna have to clean the studio a bit. I'm gonna have to order myself a cool egg timer,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
cool old-timey egg timer that I can set for myself for 30 minutes when I come in.
yeah.
So,
Um, I think it kind of gets to like what we talked about. I forget which episode this was, but we were talking about kind of leaning into your own tendencies, whatever
hmm.
they are. Like, I mean, when I have people in here and I'll be like, I apologize for the mess, and it's like it's neater than any studio they've ever seen.
They're like,
And they're
there's an
like,
erase around the table, Mark. I think we can forgive you.
right, right. Uh, and everyone always says, "Oh, it's a studio. It's supposed to be messy." And I'm like, I think that's this stereotype of a crazy artist. But some people do work that way.
Hmm.
Whether it's just cluttered or people who love having just stuff around.
Hmm.
Like you love having your plants there. I mean, like there's a reason you put them in there to begin with. Um, you know, I, to get rid of them just for this ideal minimalistic studio, I think would probably be, uh, if not a mistake, it would be like not probably not helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I think, I love plants. And to me, they like make it feel comfy somehow.
mhm.
I think it's good
Yeah.
to be comfortable in your space too.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely think that there are ways that I could improve the space to make it a little more functional for me, which I think is something that I really have been kind of wanting to do. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, yeah,
And
hopefully.
maybe just, yeah, moving some stuff around might be, for me, I always get like a little jolt of
Mhm.
excitement around that.
Well, it's funny. I am not the type of person to do a study and then turn it into a painting. That's
Mhm.
not the way my brain works at all.
Mhm.
And um, because like in my head, I'm thinking, well, if I already resolved the problem, why do I want to just do it again bigger? But
Mhm.
then there is this idea of taking that idea and examining it more in depth. That
Mhm.
is not a practice that I have done much. And so when I was just teaching in Scottsdale I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I did a demo and I was like, this, I could see wanting to explore this idea more. And
Mhm,
um, so that was something that I was like, "Ooh, I'm excited about this again," and
mhm,
it gets hard for me sometimes because I do lose that like lust to be out here.
mhm.
And I think it's important too to have that awareness of being open to when it calls you back to listen and come back.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, which I think we should get into that a lot more in the next episode. Like some of the ideas, like taking the studio space, and how do we more mentally like organize our thoughts? Because next time we're going to be talking about the book Flow by
Yes.
what's
Okay,
the
so
author's name?
I think that it's pronounced Csikszentmihalyi,
Mhm.
but if it's not, you guys are just gonna have to forgive us our ignorance and
Yeah,
know that we're doing our best with that because it's kind of like alphabet soup of
yeah,
the last
yeah,
name.
definitely.
But the book is called Flow, and it's Mark is putting it up for those of you who are on the YouTube version. How is
Mhm.
yours spelled? How is that spelled?
Uh, it is Csikszentmihalyi. So good luck.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's how that's how I have been have heard of it. So if it's not
Mhm,
Csikszentmihalyi, then I apologize, but that's what we're gonna call it, I think. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Um,
But that'll be a
but
fun
yeah,
discussion.
yeah, I think like that'll pair really well with this episode. I think because well, I mean, the idea of getting into a flow state is, I guess, important for all kinds of art making, whether it's plein air or studio, but I find it much more difficult to get into a flow state in the studio
Hmm.
than I do plein air painting. Um,
I would agree with that.
so hopefully we'll have some good information bestowed on us, uh, and we'll all be excited to uh, get to work in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to seeing you or hearing from you next time with Flow by Chicks at Me High. And yeah, got anything else, Mark?
I think we nailed it.
Nailed it. All right. Well, happy painting, everybody.
Yep. Happy painting.